Welcome back, Facebook friends. This is Zen Sam's holding the fort down here for Liquid Lunch at Mac's Public House in Staten Island. I'm hoping to hear from JT at Capitol Hill. But in the meantime, we have Karyn Turk, who's going to be helping me break down and understand all the craziness that's been taking place this morning and all through the night. Karyn is former Miss Florida, 2016, is that correct? I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Political activist and commentator from Behind the Headlines. Thank you so much, Karyn, for joining us.
Great to be here. Love a Wednesday, a Women Wednesday. And this is a true Woman Wednesday today on Liquid Lunch.
Absolutely. So, listen, this is a big day for Pence. I mean, I felt like it was more ceremonial, but as I'm hearing the news trickle in, I'm starting to believe that he might have a little bit more sway than I originally thought. What's your take on Pence and what he's going to do for Trump today?
I think he's tremendously strong. And, I've questioned Pence in the past, not recently, but, just throughout the presidency, really how much he would stand behind the president and what he would be willing to do to stand up. And a few weeks ago, we had the Turning Point convention down here in West Palm Beach. And Pence spoke to all of the young people that were at the convention, and I was fortunate enough to be there. And his speech, without a doubt, was the best speech that I've ever heard the vice president give. And he was so strong and his message was so on point. And his message was basically, we're going to stand up. We're not going to take this. They stole an election and I'm going to stand behind the president, not because I need to stand behind the president, because it's the right thing to do to the people and the people have spoken. This used to be about us. This used to be about our power as voters. And they've taken that away. And I think Mike Pence clearly sees that. I think he is going to stand beside the president. And most of all, I think he's going to stand up for all of us today.
Wow. Yeah, well, there's about 150 or so, maybe more, maybe less Congress people that are strongly opposing this certification. And I'm hoping that the truth comes out. We have yet to see what evidence is going to be presented, but all we need is those objections. And once, we get those objections, then this is not as flawless as the Democrats would think. I wanted to touch on something. What has to happen? Maybe you can give me a little bit more insight in order for Trump to win by a long shot at this point. Do I think he's going to win? Probably not. But, there's other more hopeful Republicans out there. What has to win? What has to happen in order for that win to take place?
The truth is that, there's a lot of speculation about the ways that this could go. And we could talk about, a lot of the different things that could take place in Congress and in Senate and with the vice president. But the bottom line is we have to have the evidence to support this fraud. That's going to be the most important piece of this puzzle right now. And, for a lot of us sitting back, and I've been privy to some information, some of which I don't even want to give because I don't know how accurate it is. But there's a lot of things swirling about just what the evidence is. There's some talk about some whistleblowers coming out of Italy that actually witnessed sort of these data dumps and this manipulation of the data on the night of the election that supposedly are going to come forward. And there seems to be some really compelling things behind the scenes. It remains to be seen whether or not these things will be brought out into the public eye. But I think if the evidence is strong enough to support, that's really going to be the tipping point where a lot of these Congress people are going to say, you know what, I have to stand up for this. This is wrong. And this is not, we make this a partisan issue. This really isn't a partisan issue. This, for so many reasons, should be a bipartisan issue, because really when we're talking about voter integrity, this is something that crosses party lines. And my hope personally is that if there is enough evidence where it becomes so overwhelming that it's impossible to ignore, that perhaps we can even get people who are on the other side of the aisle to wake up and smell the coffee and realize that this election was stolen. And it was stolen not from President Trump, but from the American people. And that should be a concern for everyone, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on.
Wow. Yeah, Karyn, yeah, thank you so much for breaking that down. More importantly, there's a huge outcome right now in for this rally, and there's over 1 million people that have showed up for President Trump. I don't know about you, but I don't think there's going to be over 1 million people that are going to show up for Biden on January 20th. How has this made you feel as a Republican to see this amount of support for a president that seems to have lost the election?
It's amazing and beautiful to see. However, we know realistically that if Biden gets into office, basically what we're doing is we're welcoming in socialism. And isn't it unreal that over the past year, we really have welcomed in socialism? Look at the COVID conspiracy that's taken place and how they've manipulated that in order to, make us prisoners, to get us to accept a big government rule. And you know what they're going to do with the inauguration, if God forbid it happens, is basically they're going to blame social distancing. They're going to say, oh, everybody has to stay 6 feet apart. And, oh, isn't it responsible that we have this social distancing? So, of course, we have people showing up in their cars for the inauguration, and it's a very sparse crowd because, we're complying to these COVID standards. How convenient. I tend to think that most of America is awake and that we're all paying attention to this, but the rest of these people need to get up and wake up and get their voices heard because this is ridiculous. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to blame COVID.
They're going to blame COVID. You're right. And you know what? Trump right now isn't blaming COVID, right? I mean, we have all these people out there supporting him, COVID or not, masks or not that they should be socially distancing. We know that we have another strain in the UK that just presented itself here in New York State. We have somebody up in Saratoga that has been that has been determined to have this super spread strain from the UK, but it doesn't seem to be impeding this march up in Capitol Hill today. It's kind of making me feel energized. I really thought that this was a lost cause. I'm going to hold on to some hope today. I'm not sure if this will be, in Trump's favor, but like you said, we can only hope. And when we see and when we are presented with the evidence, there's a lot of people that are putting themselves on the line, going under oath, punishable by jail time if they lie. So there's people that are truly going out on the front lines to fight this and speak their truth. And I want to see, as an American citizen, how this plays out and where the lies are and where the truth will be uncovered. But like you said, giving up our control, giving ourselves over to socialism, which in exchange is really the rise of communism. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen this play out over and over again when democratic cities are left to the socialists. You have high crime, you have high taxes, you have city funds being funneled to cronies, right? So at this point right now, these cities, all of them, we need strong leadership. And the most important thing that I want to draw away from this fiasco, this disaster of a 2020 year is leadership. Whether Joe Biden is up there or not, and whether he is officially certified, elected, however you want to call it, I don't feel comfortable with him as a leader. I just don't feel he has the ability to ride us into the next wave of what should be the best time and the best moment of our history, but it's not. How do you feel that this is going to play out once he is in power? God forbid, but let's be realistic. It's looking more and more like he will be in power. He's a puppet. So how does this really play out for the American people?
We have to hope that the American people can take back, this is a Save America rally. Truly, we have to save America. It's in our hands now because the globalist elite that have now penetrated the American government by stealing this election. And if Joe Biden is inaugurated and does become our president, we are on a very slippery slope, just like you said, towards communism. My parents, I'm a first-generation American, came here from Austria in 1928. Austria actually elected in the Democratic Socialist Party. And we all know how that went when, in the 1930s, my family, along with a lot of other Jews, had to escape. And the ones who didn't escape were
So
murdered.
so you know these trials extremely well. And you know what I will say, Karyn, is that about 7 in 10 agree with Trump's assertion that Biden was not legitimately elected president, according to AP Votecast, a survey of more than 3,600 voters in the runoff elections. So the fact that you have these statistics coming out and where people are saying, 7 in 10 agree with Trump that there was some level of voter fraud, and you have these margins that are so slim, I really don't feel like saying that the Democrats took over properly. I just don't. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much.